morning. If you're watching live, you are watching the DMZ America podcast for Thursday, July 23rd, 2026. It's just a reminder that normally we're here Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We won't be here tomorrow. This is the show we're doing in lieu of tomorrow. So we'll be back at our regular time next week on Friday of next week. Okay, thanks. Coming to you from the left, I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall.
And coming to you from our today's topic struck me as what this is. This is the AI version of the Republican or the right. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here, Ted. I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis, of course, coming to you from the AI right. This is what, if you ran this through ChatGPT, this would be the version of what's become of the right.
That's a very complicated approach here. All right, so here's the thing, right? So I thought it would, there's a lot of discussion about artificial intelligence. It has a lot of implications rippling throughout the economy and throughout our culture. I mean, there was even I don't know if you took note of this story, Scott. A couple days ago, OpenAI announced that they kind of had their Terminator Skynet moment with ChatGPT Model 6 and some other undisclosed model that they have not talked about yet. They put them together, put them in what they call, developers call a sandbox, which means that it's insulated. It's not supposed to be able to go anywhere or get it. But somehow this combination, they got together, they hacked their way onto the internet, and they went rogue and they started doing shit they weren't supposed to do because they decided that they wanted to pass this test, kind of like a dorky kid who wants to get the A+, and so is willing to cut a few corners to get it. That's what they did, and it was kind of like they made decisions on their own, and they ran counter to what we asked them and told them to do. Anyone who's ever used AI knows that can happen. Like it can be a disobedient child, when you're trying to get it to do something. But okay, so I guess the question here is, how is AI affecting the world specifically of political cartooning and the world of cartooning in general? Let's start with political cartooning. Scott, you and I both seen on X and Facebook and Instagram, there's a whole category now of fake political cartoons, and they're generated in any number of ways. They tend to sort of look the same, but they sort of have this sort of, I would say, this late 80s, early 90s kind of generic, like the kind of style that would have appeared at a very small paper in Central Arkansas and all over the world. And they kind of, they're reasonably competent, and basically they'll be typically two people talking, right, with a word. And some of those have been generated, I guess, based on prompts, and others are generated by scraping legit working editorial cartoonists like Matt Worker at Politico, or I don't know if they've done it to me yet, but they've done it to other people. I don't know if they've done it to you yet, Scott. But basically, they'll take your work, they put it into they cut and paste it, put it into I guess I shouldn't tell people how to do this, but it's not hard to figure out.
No, it's really not.
You put it into an AI, and you say like, turn this into a political cartoon, and then the AI creates this generic format. And it raises a lot of issues, right? I mean, this has infuriated people like our colleague Milt Prigge, who can't stop talking about it. And I guess
is that right?
Yeah. Well, a lot of cartoonists are just furious about it. Can it be stopped? What are the effects of it? Should AI companies be held accountable for allowing this to have this copyright violation to occur on their? I mean, it is obviously taking someone's cartoon and then like basically just changing the artwork so that you can't tell where it came from, but keeping all the content basically the same. That's obviously a copyright violation.
Yes. But can you copyright style? I mean, let's face it, back in the day, going to go back many years, but Jeff McNelly, and there were McNelly clones all over the place. Now, you can't copyright a style. I mean, you could, if they were tracing or cut back in the day, cut and pasting the cartoons, then yeah. But now this weird gray area. Now, have you ever tried to go on ChatGPT or Grok or any of the others and say, draw this cartoon in the style of Ted Rall or Scott Stantis?
Yes.
Mine always, whenever I say in the style of Scott Stantis, it always comes back as 1950s Disney. I don't know why, but when it scrubs the internet, that's what it comes up with. But it is, I mean, it's perplexing, but it's also, you can tell a lot of comic strips are using it now. I mean, think about it. If you have Blondie, you have over 100 years of gags that you can feed into AI.
Mhm.
And I mean, let's face it, for the last 90 years, it's been the same friggin' joke, right? I mean, it's so how hard can it be to feed?
Dagwood loves his sandwiches.
Oh, and that poor mailman always gets run into because Dagwood's in such a hurry.
Yeah.
So you could just feed those gags in. Like I said, 90 years of them. The art doesn't change dramatically from creator. It gets handed from creator to creator over the years, or has been. You could create a comic strip. You could create a legacy comic strip, no problem, without having a human being touch it.
True.
That's, but as far as editorial cartooning goes, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, in our profession, same tropes, same, my kids always make fun of me. Like I say, I have to go
two couple watching TV and responding to a news story.
Car driving off a cliff, which, many of our drive several
often
times
relates to the national debt.
Well, my kids always make fun of me because I say I have to go draw something for the Tribune, and they will say, "Oh, you're going to have a hippopotamus with debt on the side." I go, that's not bad.
No, it's a rhinoceros.
Exactly, you little bastards, and those cartoons put you through college. So there's not a lot of originality there, and I think that AI can probably speak to that. Why wouldn't you? There are Mike Ramirez is a cartoonist who uses a lot of the same tropes over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. The car off the cliff is one of them.
The hurricane.
Why? Yeah. Anytime we have bets in the profession. When there's a hurricane, how long will it take Mike Ramirez to do a cartoon and label it debt? AI. AI.
Hurricanes.
Wouldn't that be a great label? Hurricane, hurricanes. Season dumps on streaming services. It can be anything, because if you think about it, it could literally be
Reformation.
So editorial cartooning, I mean, we've talked about this before with other editorial cartoonists and amongst ourselves, that we've kind of heard, and those of us who use a lot of imagery and a lot of metaphor, which makes Ted's teeth itch. Not
the way it used to, but that's just because I'm old and cranky.
But you're right. It locks you into a corner. And if you're not terribly imaginative or terribly smart, you're going to reuse the same metaphors and metaphors that you think people will recognize. That's where Pat Oliphant, who passed away recently, we did last episode was based on mourning his passing. But for all of his faults, you have to say he took metaphors and it just drew from a whole bunch of other resources.
That's true. You didn't see a lot of repetition there.
So, I wanted to ask you, because I don't know that I've ever asked you privately or publicly, Ted, data centers. Yeah, I was on recently on a television talk show, and they were asking about that. And the host was dead set against them. They eat up the environment. They're the destruction of all of us. And I had to point out to them that I was doing my end of the interview via Zoom. And it took me so I stopped and had to wait a second for the host to figure out what I was trying to say, which is we were using a data center that very moment. We're using a data center right now.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
We need them. I think what happened is that industry decided, hey, no holds barred. And they just made these massive centers that really are just resource sluts. They just gobble everything up. But do you have now, and MAGA has all of a sudden grabbed hold of this and decided that this is the destruction of the world. Have you ever had, or do you have a I know you do. You've got to. I know because you're, Ted Rall. Do you have an opinion about data centers and what to do? I mean,
Well, I mean, the whole idea that like, we shouldn't have them is stupid. I mean, it's like, obviously, this is the technology that we've decided as a society to go forward with. We don't have centralized planning, sadly. So we don't have, a command and control economy. Again, sadly, we don't do 5-year plans, sadly. So therefore, there's no choice. We're going to build them, right? There's no question about that. So the question is, within the construct of capitalism, can you regulate them? Can you reduce their effect on the environment? And can you mitigate the cost to us? I mean, the part to me that's the most galling is that this is a for-profit industry that is effectively outsourcing its expenses to the ratepayers. And fuck that. I mean, that's ridiculous. You guys are, you're huge energy hogs. Okay, big energy hogs. It's up to you to like build your solar array or whatever, your own hydroelectric plant. You got, you find the power. It's on you. It's not on me, right? This reminds me of the story that just broke like yesterday, and it drove me absolutely insane about how the vast that there's huge companies like Walmart and God, not Costco. They're not one of them, but there's Amazon warehouses, right? Where the number of their employees who are on Medicaid and welfare and SNAP is through the roof, right? So basically, these people are really underpaid, and the American taxpayer has to subsidize Jeff Bezos so that he can buy himself another super mega yacht. Like, look, if you don't want to pay your employees properly, I mean, that's wrong and should be regulated. But like, why am I paying their welfare? Like, that's on you, right? Like, you should be forced to pay them and give them proper benefits. Like, that shouldn't be me. And I think left, middle, or right, I think all Americans would agree on that. Same thing with data centers, right? It's like, you guys want to build this thing. It gobbles up power like nobody's business. You pay for the BTUs. It don't come looking to me.
No, I agree. We need them. The more and more,
and we're going to build them.
They're going to get built. I mean, they're already being built like crazy in pork states like Mississippi is going to be, I think, pretty much from top to bottom is going to be a data center. And they try to sell this by saying it provides jobs first in the constructing of the things. Well, if you look at them, they're very basic. They're warehouse structures. They're not sophisticated. It's a foundation, it's walls, it's a roof, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And all the air conditioning units and everything to keep it, running at 50 degrees. So building it doesn't take a lot of time and or effort. And then the employees that it hires, Ted, is like, they say 150 jobs.
Right.
Which I think is probably high.
I think that's kind of a lie. Yeah. It's probably like 40.
If that. I mean, and that includes
they need someone to dust the servers.
Yes, they need someone to serve the servers, as we all are going to. So, okay, I'm sorry, we're kind of off topic a little bit because, but data centers.
That's never happened on this show.
No, I've never really asked you about data centers, though. You and I kind of, interestingly, are on the same page. We're talking about regulating them. Because
there's all sorts of technology I wish we didn't do. I mean, as a society, I wish we could just say, like, honestly, let's not have self-driving trucks. Let's not have delivery drones until we're ready, or maybe we'll never be ready. But the point is that data servers are not really one of those things, because, I mean, you literally would be tying a hand behind economic growth in a way that would be unsustainable for this system as it currently stands. I mean, unless you wanted to like get together with all of the other countries of the world, like China and India, and say, hey, why don't we all agree not to build data centers? I don't know why anyone would agree to that, but that's not going to happen. No. So therefore it's like, what's the point of even talking about it?
Right. Well, but they're trying to put the genie back in this bottle. And
Mr. A. Lee, by the way, comments, China has around 300 data centers. The US has 5,000.
is that true? Just because China was it continues to be very active in Bitcoin mining, which I understand is really one of the main reasons to do these centers, or at least that's always been the claim. I just think
Well, a lot of this is surveillance, right? A lot of the stuff that's being used, US data centers
what?
are being used for. Yeah.
No, Ted.
Yeah.
You're looking at our government as if it's the enemy.
Right. Oh, my apologies. I love you, government. You're the best.
So AI, as far as cartooning goes, I think comic strips are definitely in the crosshairs. I mean, you could do Pearls Before Swine without anyone actually, like any human being touching it.
Or someone could barely, or more to the point, someone could barely be prompting it, right? And then looking at the results, and then maybe go in and do a little edit, and then you're good.
So think about it. I mean, you worked for syndicates for years. I mean, isn't this kind of a syndicate wet dream? I mean, that they could get rid of creators. You don't have to pay them the big money. You don't have to deal with their, their peccadillos and their personalities. And you could have one person literally producing 10 comic strips.
Well, I mean, look, this would have been great if there were still, back in the day when there still were newspapers for syndicates to sell comic strips to. Sure, it would have been fantastic. King Features Syndicate is one of the 4 or 5 major syndicates, and they're known for having a preponderance of what they call in the industry legacy comic strips, which are in many cases owned by the syndicate. And the syndicate hires the creator to take them over, and a lot of them are very old and strips and that have been around for 50, 75 years, whatever, and they just hire someone to do it. And then, like, when that person doesn't work out or they die or whatever, you hire someone new. Yeah, King Features has to be like loving this idea. But again, I mean, look, comic syndication is a pale shadow of what it was even 20, 30 years ago, right?
We can tell tales because we're old, but the first time I ever went to United Features, where Ted eventually ended up working, that was when they still had Peanuts and they had Garfield. Combined those properties. Was that before Dilbert? I was there. I was there before Dilbert.
Okay, all right.
So they did, but they had just those 2 features alone. Ted made $100 million for the creators. Split 70-30 for
and that's not counting all the licensing, like Snoopy being on Metropolitan Life or whatever.
It includes that. It was just they made bazillions of dollars off those features, and so you walked in and they had this whole wall dedicated to the ancillary development of everything that had Peanuts on it.
There was an entire room of that you could look through that's what you're thinking of. You'd look through, and it was a huge room of Peanuts merch.
And it was crazy. When I was there, I was 23 years old. So I was a real piece of shit, quite frankly, more so than now. And I asked,
That's hard to believe.
I know. It was a high bar, but by gum, I cleared it. But I asked them, when I'm looking through this room, I'm going, where are the condoms? Because it really was the only thing that Peanuts wasn't on. I thought maybe there'd be like a Lucy diaphragm or good grief condoms. They don't work all the time.
It's like or Lucy condoms. The doctor might be out, but you're in.
So you better pull away at the right moment, just the last moment.
or Snoopy ones. Don't let your Red Baron get shot down.
And it really was, Ted backed me up. It really was that bad. I mean, it was just like you walked into this room.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
And because don't forget, it wasn't just licensed stuff here in the United States. It was licensed all over in Japan, which has an aesthetic that's different than the United States. They really did stick it on flipping everything. So yeah, I think King Features probably would love the idea of AI. Editorial
but it doesn't matter, because that's in the as things currently stand in 2026, that's not going to be. I mean, the real. I mean, to me, it's more of like a death knell, right? It's sort of like editorial cartooning is fucked. I mean, when I got into this, there were like 800 full-time editorial cartoonists, and
800?
like, well,
I don't think that number was ever that high.
Oh no, it was 2000, like 100 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, look, obviously there's
Well,
always controversy within this profession about how many cartoonists there are, right? How do you count them? Who do you count? Do you count someone who, I mean, to me, it's like if you were working, you had a desk in an office, you went to work every day, and you have benefits and a salary, you're a full-time cartoonist.
yeah.
Right? But anyway, it's
Yeah,
hard.
you
to
may be
measure
right,
these things.
because almost every paper, because syndication was not, it was done through the mail.
Right.
So, President Coolidge passes away. You want the cartoon today in your editions tomorrow.
Yes.
You don't want to have to wait a week to say,
Yeah, people are yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's exactly what happened.
I'm sorry, and I interrupted. Go on. So,
but anyway, let's just say there were hundreds, right? And now maybe there's about a dozen. And
ooh.
Wouldn't you say?
I'd say maybe 10.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
or less.
Yeah. I mean, there's basically none left. And the profession's been completely decimated. It's not like for years we were warning, like we're in dire trouble, we're in dire straits, we could be fucked. Now we are fucked. I mean, we're fucked to the point now that I'm not sure exactly if it'll ever come back, or if it'll ever be allowed to come back. But okay, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about. So to me, the what this is about is what's interesting though, is that the format is still appealing enough to readers to be worth stealing through AI, right? Like people can still, people who are looking to generate clicks and, get those fractions of a penny each time someone looks at something, they're like, of all the things you can do with that, with porn, whatever, political cartoons are still inside that mix. And I wish there was a way to convey that to cultural gatekeepers like the editors at, Axios and other places that refuse to run editorial cartoons, to say like, look, this is people do like the form, even in this shitty, bastardized, generified AI form. Imagine if they like that, how much they would like something with a little personality.
Yeah, but to your point, the times I've just for shits and giggles put in an idea and have it squared out, it's awful. And that's where I don't think AI is anywhere close to that. But again, to your other point, who gives a shit? I mean, in all seriousness, a profession I love and I gave 40 plus years of my life to crafting and doing the best I could, as many of our compatriots also did. We're dead, and we're dead for a lot of different reasons, which we've covered many times on this podcast. But AI, can it revive it? No, absolutely, because what it's going to do is go through the internet, scrape the old cartoons, look at the cars going off the cliffs, and stuff like that, and the people sitting on the couch watching TV, and it's going to come. So what's going to revive it is perhaps using it as a tool, but also coupling that with someone who's incredibly creative, and takes the form in a different direction, like a Pat Oliphant, like a Jeff McNally, like just to make it look different and take it to a different place. I'm looking at the business of comic strips. We touched on that a minute ago, and how we had, oh gosh, I'm having such a brain fart here. Oh my God, the woman who thank you, the professor at SCAD, Sarah White Davison, telling us about what the profession of comic strips looks like today. And it's so completely and utterly different. But she also said she's a children's book or mid-grade book author and graphic novelist, and how her contract for her publishing contract said there can be no AI used on this, period. Right. Period.
AI, the San Diego Comic-Con, which I think is going on right now, even as we speak, is, or it might have been last week, but I think it's today. I think it's this week. In fact, I think it starts today. They ban all AI generated cartoon art entirely.
I get it. It is the genie already out of this bottle? I mean,
I would say, yeah.
yeah, I think people use AI in different ways. They can use it as a subsidy for their work, or a subsidy for, if you know what I mean. They can use it to subsidize or improve the artwork, change the artwork somewhat, maybe use it as even I would type in full disclosure, I don't do Prickly City anymore, but at the time I would use ChatGPT, put in some prompts, say write a week's worth of scripts. They'd come back. They were awful, but they're a good basis. Now I have a friend
Like
who
you mean like they were a good basis, like formatically, or what?
no, a good basis for topics for the gags.
Okay.
And then you could go from there. It was a good starting point. It kind of helped kickstart your brain saying, okay, you got to write 6 of these. Here are topics. None of them were funny. I never ever quoted any of them because they sucked. But for instance, Ted, I have a friend. I mean, this is a broader-ish conversation, I think, about using AI and creativity. He uses AI a lot. He's a novelist. He's writing a fantasy series. He's come up with the first book, and he's now he's just finished the second. He's coming out with a third, and then he's writing some satellite books, one of which is a cookbook, which I think is fantastic, a really interesting idea. But my point is that he uses AI a lot as a editor. It can do things like he'll write a chapter and run it through it, and he'll say, "Hey, didn't you kind of do this? This character do this?
So
4
like
chapters
it
ago."
checks continuity or repetition or whatever.
Right.
Well, that's very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not. I don't think that's a cheat. I think that there's some artists who could use it if they put in their own work, for instance, and use that. That's not a cheat. That's just a helping hand. If it's your work that it strikes me as not anywhere close to what we're alluding to, which is having AI create in whole cloth an editorial cartoon, create in whole cloth a comic strip. It's the same thing for a script. Where it's really going to beat the living hell out of creators is children's books. Because, oh yeah, I've tried it. I've said, okay, here's an idea for a children's book. What do you think? And it wrote it, and it's good. I mean, it's actually, it's pretty good. It sounds like a children's book that you'd pick up at any, bookstore. Like I said, editorial cartooning, it's the complexities. I know we've mourned the passing of it here several times on this podcast, but the skill set and the thinking it took to do a good job at it is something that it's such a loss. And it's something that computers simply cannot do. Have you ever seen or had any level of success at that, Ted? Just for shits and giggles, typing in an idea and seeing what it comes, or typing in a topic.
Oh yeah, no. I think it's one of those things where obviously it can't do it. And it's hard to imagine how it ever could. There's a lot of stuff where you're like, okay, this aspect of AI is going to obviously keep getting better. That other one will too. But no, I don't think, coming up with creative ideas, it is so far away from being able to do that. It's just sort of like, it's a joke to even think that that's like in the realm of possibility. It's just not going to happen.
And so, I did not follow Mill Priggy. Maybe you can get me up to speed a little bit about what he's saying other than it's evil.
Yeah, he just basically, that's it.
Okay. Well,
I mean, it's just sort of like, raging. And I mean, there's nothing, he's angry about it, but it's like, okay, all right, whatever. He's disgusted. There's nothing you can do though. I mean, I'm always interested in like what is cheating, right? Like sort of like in the age of, like people used to do handwritten manuscripts, right? Well, then the typewriter came along, and I'm not kidding. I mean, the typewriter obviously made writing a lot easier, a lot faster.
Yeah.
Was it cheating? I mean, I don't think so. I mean,
no.
Nobody. Is Photoshop cheating in our, these days? In cartooning, it's kind of, sort of, maybe. I don't think.
No, it's a tool. For me, it was because mostly what I used it for is moving type around, because I always had the think ahead problem with lettering. But yeah, you could use it for coloring. Is that, I mean, was it cheating using that and not, what were those? Amberlynth. Remember Amberlynth?
No, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it was the amber stuff, and you cut it out, and let's say you wanted
I
this
use something called Letratone.
Probably the same
or
stuff.
we all use Duo Shade.
No. This was something you could cut out for color if you want spot color.
Yeah, it was Letratone. It's the same thing. You cut it out and you pasted it on top.
Oh my God, such a pain in the ass. And we had
some people used watercolors. The better cartoonists used watercolors.
I know, but it was so hard to do. And then Photoshop comes around and allows you to, to do things easier, faster. And of course,
it's funny. I remember mentioning it to Tom tomorrow. He'd heard about it, and I showed him. I was like, "Let me show you," and his eyes got really big, like done. Like,
well,
okay.
And that's the thing is, I mean, it's a tool, and it's a wonderful. Photoshop was, and it was a great tool. I use Procreate. I draw all of my work now. It has been for years. Is digital on an iPad.
Yeah, is that cheating as opposed to using pen and ink?
Well, it's different.
Not in my opinion, but
No, it's different though. What's really interesting is I was recently in Chicago and spent some time with Jeff McNally's son and one of his ex-wives, and she had literally a suitcase full of his work, of his original work. And I got to say, it just reminded me of, you put the ink down and you could either go back in with whiteout, or you could just say, you know what? Good enough for government work.
We're done here.
Yeah. it's like, and it was interesting how the art has changed now. And there's a polish to it that wasn't there before. And that's why guys like McNally, like Oliphant, whose work was very fussy, got to be who they were because they just had it in them. They knew how to handle ink. They knew how to handle pencil on a paper, and how to handle Duo Shade, which was a paper. Oh my God, no one will care about this, but I'll mention it anyway.
People who are watching this podcast will certainly care about it.
It was a paper put out by Ohio Arts and some art studios. Did you have to buy it direct from an art store, or did you have to buy? I actually ended up buying it directly from Ohio Arts.
It was cheaper through Ohio Graphic Arts, but based in Cleveland. I don't know if they're still around, but there was an art supply store on the Lower East Side of Manhattan that sold it.
And it was great. So you drew it. It was Bristol board, a nice heavy stock Bristol board, and you could put your ink on it, and then you let your ink dry. Obviously, your ink dry, and then there was a chemical that smelled like rotten eggs.
It was horrible.
Yeah, especially the Duo Shade, which means two cross hatches. It was a photo
developer fluid.
Yeah, effectively. So you applied it with a brush, so you could dry brush it. So you did do it? Yeah, you did.
Yeah, there was for a hot second. There was a pattern underneath the paper, and then like when you paint used a brush it would lift the pattern out.
Yeah, it would be like it's a gray tone as a mid-tone, so you could get your grays in there, and it was a great tool. I mean, it really was.
And this goes to back to the time when newspapers were still using like veloxing to process.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten velox.
Process photographs and stuff, right?
Do you remember velox? I mean, they would. You literally
had a giant machine the size of like a small duchy.
It had its own room in the production. It had its own room. Right. So I'm not sure if that's because they feared it. Or
yes, they had to lock it at night. It might get loose like AI.
And back in the day when you're syndicated through the mail, I'd ask for one copy for me, and then I could use the Xerox machine. It was a really clean copy of it. That's but you'd have to go to the production, and you'd have to be really nice to production people, which you should be anyway, because they're human beings and deserve people to be nice to them.
Of course.
But I can remember I'm trying to remember who it was. There's one or two cartoonists who were just assholes to these guys. They'd go in there and say, "You fucked up my cartoon again yesterday." Well, you come in yelling at somebody who literally has your you know where this is going, don't you, Ted?
I do know where this is going. Yeah.
Who literally can control how your work looks and hence control your job. And you go in there and you yell at them. Yeah. Bad call.
And they're union members. So you can't fire them.
Right. So they would fuck with you. I mean, they would totally, like if you were an ass. So I was always really nice. If I'm around the holidays, I'd bring down cases of beer or a case of wine for them to share. Well, because they really did. And if they did a good job, they could be very good friends. And so just back now, you draw it on your computer or you scan it. You still do ink. Do you still do ink?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for
God,
sure.
that's amazing. You know what? This sounds crazy. I'm
Just
not
because
sure.
honestly, I don't think I'm like really able I don't I have better control, such as it is, on pen and paper than I do on like drawing on a pad.
Really
Yeah.
interesting because I mean, like I said, when I got the iPad and I got Procreate, the program, which is an amazing drawing program, I said I'm going to give myself a month to get used to this. And the first
Well,
month,
you could, by the way, and I have experimented with this. You can totally, like on Grok, for example, you can take a photograph. You can take a photograph of, let's say, I mean, I did this. It was funny. My cat was sitting in the bathtub. I took a picture of the cat in the bathtub, and I asked Grok, swap out the cat for a crocodile. And so the cat's gone, the crocodile's there, and all the shadows are right, and it compensates for like the fact that
oh wow,
the space is different and everything. And I was like, oh, make it a rhinoceros, make it, and it did that, right? So the point is, you could scan in your cartoon, your black and white art, let's say, and say, colorize President Trump with a red tie, with a fuchsia red tie, dark blue, make his suit dark blue, make his hair yellow with white streaks, and it'll do that for you. Is that cheating?
yeah,
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think it's just a fucking tool. It's just technology. I think that, like, I'm reminded right now of like when I was, I went to engineering school, and when I got there, I was really surprised because they said, oh, you can use it during your exams or during class. You can always use your scientific calculators, and I was like, wow, but in high school, we weren't allowed to use them during exams. We were barely allowed to use a slide rule. Those of us who knew how to use one, and they were like, listen, we're training you to work in a lab. In a lab, you're going to be able to use calculators, computers, anything else that happens to be around. Not many computers in 1981, right? But the point is, we're not going to tie one hand behind your back. But they banned computers from high schools. Like, and all that. Now, obviously, we've gone from one extreme to another. I think we're at that stage now with AI where, like the New York Times sent out a missive. I'm on their list because I used to submit to them, to their op-ed page. And it's like, you are not currently allowed under New York Times doctrine, even as a freelancer, to use AI even as a spell checker. So you can't even put in your essay into AI and say, check spelling and grammar, which I do for my syndicated column. I do put it into AI and ask it to check those things. That's the only thing I have it do. And like but according to the New York Times, I don't know if they'd have a way to catch you or not, but if they catch you, you're fired. It's all banned.
Wow.
I think that's a level of hysteria.
It is really well put. Hysteria is exactly the word for it. This is a tool like any other tool. You can do it. I mean, look at that. You could take Photoshop, and there were some cartoonists, a guy named Simpson in Tulsa, who I don't know if he used Photoshop but who pretty much just cut and pasted McNally cartoons and literally copied them.
Yeah, I think he was using, honestly, I think he was like using the old school, just Xerox machine to do it.
It was, when you look up Simpson, if you ever get a chance, and plagiarism.
Yeah.
And you will be, you will be amazed at the goal that they kept this guy on staff for as long as they did. Yeah. It's astounding.
True.
So you could use Photoshop you could use it for evil, or you can use it for good. I suspect AI is going to be the same thing in terms of our profession and in terms of what it's going to be used for. That's interesting that you could take it in and be colorized. I'm wondering if you could, because the prompts are kind of the ticket, right? That's the thing that drives whether or not it does a good job, what it creates, and so on. If you could put your work in and have it colorized,
right. I mean, that's a great example of something that's like, look, it's monkey work. Okay. It's kind of like, once maybe when you're learning how to color, you can see, I mean, we've all seen this. I observed this in your work. Like, you're a great colorist now, right? But I remember when you first started, it was kind of like, he's having trouble. It's the same thing with me. When I first started, if you look at that stuff, it's like, wow, like, it hurts my eyes. But once you get up and running, it is just like a dog could do it, right? I mean, it's basically just like, I can do it half consciously. So like, you could totally train an AI on your palette and just say, draw on this palette, and then, make this blue, make the sky, whatever, yellow, whatever you want to do. And it's like, it'll just do it. And then you can go in and tweak it. I mean, why not, really? I mean, why not? I mean, photographers, they always fuck with their photos. Newspaper photography is different. They, breaking news photos, photography, they're not allowed to do that. But
you can still dodge, you can still do, digitally now, and you can enhance something, you can bring it, highlight it more by increasing the contrast. You could still, there was an interesting case years ago. Newspaper, I believe it was a newspaper, had a picture of some kids, those darn kids, dyed a swimming pool red. And so
as one does.
Yeah, why not? And so they sent a photographer out. He or she took a picture of it. They came back, processed the photograph, and it went through the copy desk. The copy desk said, wait a minute, why is this water? Something's wrong with this picture. This water is red. Christ. And they changed it to blue. So the person who did it didn't bother to read the caption. So the caption is, vandals hurt community pool. And the community pool is pristine and blue. It's like,
that's awesome.
And that ignited a conversation. This was back in the mid to late 80s. Our photo editor of a newspaper I worked at the time, the Commercial Appeal in Memphis, was on a committee to try to say, what are the ethics of this new technology in terms of photography?
Right. And it's a valid question. Yeah.
Yeah. And to Ted's point, of course, they went absolutely ballistic and said, no Photoshop ever. You cannot change a photograph in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Which flies in the face of what they had done with photographs for decades, which is, if you look through old photo morgues and so on, the place where they hold, is they had like a picture of Gene Tunney, the heavyweight champion of the world. And some artist went in there with gouache, which is a thick ink, and took out whatever was in the background. So it's just a mugshot. I mean, they did stuff like that in the 20s and 30s.
All the time.
Yeah. So it wasn't anything new. But so this, like as Ted put it perfectly, this hysteria swept the photo world. Mm-hmm. And now, there's really not a lot of rules as to what, you can't,
think about in our profession, right? Look, I'm not sure exactly what his procedure is, what his process is, but think about Clay Bennett, right? If you look at his cartoons, he's at the Chattanooga paper in Tennessee. He clearly runs his work through, this is not AI because he's been doing this for years, but it's through a number of filters. Right. Yes. And he obviously uses photo references and then scans them in. And then like let's say he draws a lawnmower. He's not drawing that lawnmower the way like I would by hand. He's like obviously takes a photo of a lawnmower and then runs it through some filters, and everything's like sort of fuzzy and round. And it has a very consistent look. Is that cheating? Hell, David Reese did a cartoon called Get Your War On, and it was clip art like from the 50s or 60s, always the same images, and all he did was change the words. Is he cheating? I'd say no, he's not cheating. It's just like, I guess it's easy, you could certainly say that, to draw it. He's not drawing it really. Or there was David Lynch, the film director, who died recently. He had a comic strip called The Angriest Dog in the World that ran in alt weekly newspapers around the country. And it was the same image every single week. And it always ends with it's two panels. One person, you see a house, a balloon comes out of that house, and it's someone saying something stupid. And then the last panel is the dog out in the yard overhearing it going, grrr. That's it. Is it cheating? No, it's minimalist. Sure. But what is a cartoon? A cartoon is just words plus pictures. I mean, it just is. And so, is a meme cheating? I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, cheating is like plagiarism is stealing. Tracing someone else's work is plagiarism. That's cheating. Coming up with, stealing people's ideas, that's cheating. Stealing, I would argue, maybe even if you completely steal someone's style slavishly, like some of our colleagues did, trying to beat Jeff McNally, I would say that's cheating. But most people would disagree with me on that last one.
No, I wouldn't. If I could just jump in real quick on that, I wouldn't disagree with you. You can use that as the starting point. Most of us, so those of us of a certain age had Jeff McNally and Oliphant, and those were our influences.
Yeah.
But then you use that, and I'm going to try and draw like him. I'm going to draw like him, and then you can kind of like go into, and because if you're a decent artist, if you want to be an artist, you're going to want to have your own style.
Yeah.
And express yourself in your own particular way.
And that will naturally happen too, right? Sort of the process tends to be like when I started out, I really wanted to be Mike Peters. And I tried to draw like Mike Peters. There's no way I could ever draw like Mike Peters.
Really? I can definitely see the influence.
He was a much better artist than I ever will be. But the point is that you end up over time, you tend to go your own way. I mean, even with the quote unquote, there really weren't Oliphant clones. I think people admired Oliphant. I don't really feel like many people succeeded in copying him.
No, Milt
people
Prigge
really copied McNally.
Yeah, no, Milt Prigge definitely drew like Oliphant. I mean, it was really kind of, he was more Oliphant than Oliphant at one point. So that's why that's why I'm kind of head scratching over his over the top hysteria about AI, just because,
I think he mourns. I think this is more about mourning the profession.
Well, okay, so it's kind of misdirected emotions, like
as emotions often are.
Yes, as emotions almost always are. I mean, I'm looking at, okay, this is a little short story, I'll bullet point it, but it's salient to what we're talking about, Ted. Do you remember Amazon Go? Amazon tried these stores, and it was a technology that had all these scanners, all these cameras, everything. You had the app, you walked into the store by going through a turnstile, and you went boop, and you walk in, and you could look at this turkey sandwich. No, I don't think so. You put it back, and you grab the the egg salad sandwich and a drink, and you just threw it in your backpack and you walked out. And I used it because I loved I was always behind schedule. I had to late for a meeting, so I would just grab a drink or something. I grabbed two of my more liberal friends from the Tribune to look at it and see what they thought. And both of them had the same reaction. Mine was like, oh my God, the jobs this is going to kill is staggering. I love the fact that it also knocks out the part of going to a convenience store. That's the part that sucks the most, which is checking out. Because
especially if there's a wait.
Yeah. And you have some person, I mean, I've been in line, I was under the gun, I was on deadline, I had to get to the office, and some poor schlub, some homeless guy was paying things out in dimes and pennies. And it was just like,
oh no.
Oh my God, please
kill me.
So I like that, but the job killing aspect of it, I brought my liberal friends there, and both of them had the exact same reaction. A, the technology was pretty awesome, but B, you can't stop technology. I thought that was really, and that's coming back to the hysteria over Photoshop in the red swimming pool. You can't stop it. You can look at it and say, okay, here's where the ethical line is, and that's exactly what I'm pretty much just repeating what Ted said, that there is an ethical line here. What is that line, and who defines it is the profession, just societal norms, and see how it falls. But yeah, you mentioned Clay Bennett's work. I mean, you can tell, sometimes he doesn't even remove the photo from behind what he traced.
Right.
He clearly traced a photo.
Right. Using some sort of automated filter.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not sure.
Is it still a cartoon? Sure, it's a cartoon. Is it a good cartoon? It's a good cartoon if it looks good and it makes a salient point or it's funny, right? Then it's a good cartoon.
Yeah, but I also wonder about copyright, and we get those waters, and we can get into those tall weeds, but it's not really that interesting, and we are not lawyers. So.
Well, actually, though, that's the idea about, like we mentioned earlier on in this episode, right? Is the idea, like if you take a Scott Stantis cartoon, you scan it into AI and say, create a political cartoon like this, but drawn differently. Is that copyright violation? Of course it is, right? And these AI companies are doing it like crazy.
Well, I'd been drawing for the Dallas Morning News for a few years, and they have an arts section on Sunday. And what was curious about it, Ted, is I think I sent it to you, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I didn't. But it was a half-page illustration, clearly AI generated, but it had a human name underneath it. Art by June Lockhart, or whoever the artist's name was.
By Artbot.
Yes, but it didn't say Artbot, which would have been more legit. And they did this a couple of times, and I actually, during one of my conversations with the editor, I had to say, "Listen, man, what are your rules on this?"
Mm.
And he was like, "Oh, I didn't know we were doing it." And it wasn't his section, so he wasn't responsible for it. But my point is, that to me is not cool. If there's art, if one of your artists, staff artists or art director went on to ChatGPT, typed in some prompts, and this art squirts out, and you run it as something that was done by a human being, there's something very, very wrong with that. I think we can agree on that.
We do agree on that. Now, here's a question. This is something that, like, one of our colleagues, actually, he's got this startup that's working on this, Mark Fiore. He won the Pulitzer. He's the only animated editorial cartoonist to have ever won. So the first and maybe only. And he's got a startup that he's working on to basically create I think mainly this is about trying to be able to retroactively figure out if for a cartoonist to put their own work in and see if anyone's stealing it using AI, so that they'd be able to hold them accountable. But presumably you could also use this you could train it on your style and use it to generate cartoons in your style. And, I find that fascinating because the rate that we're paid per cartoon keeps diminishing, right? Like by a lot. Like I would say this, like a standard, I don't know about you, but I used to charge for a freelance cartoon, just like drawn by, let's say a magazine called and said, I want one Esquire. We want one cartoon about, Scott Stantis and how handsome he is. And we'll pay you for that one cartoon. I would charge between $500 and $1,500 for that cartoon. Like now that you'd be lucky to get $100.
Yeah.
And so the point is with the, that ability, so because to keep your head above water financially, and cartooning is not the only field of art where that's the case. You need to be able to create more than one cartoon every day. Ideally, you'd want to do like 10, right? So if you can train an AI on your style, and you can say, okay, it's only trained on your style, so it's not at all drawing from anyone else's IP. Is it wrong to say, like, to see a story, Steve Miller said this, do a cartoon, in my style, showing Steve Miller, sucking a dick. Is that, I don't think that's wrong.
No, I think you and I could agree on that as well. I think it's one of those, it when you see it, when someone's, say, like I just mentioned, the piece of art for the Dallas Morning News, that is, that's wrong, especially when you put a name to it. That's just dead ass wrong. That implying that a human being created this when indeed a human being did not. Right. Other than typed in.
It's really disturbing. Yeah.
Deeply disturbing. So will this help, hurt, hinder, have any effect on editorial cartooning? I'd have to say, after an hour talking about this, not at all.
Not really. So with 5 minutes left, what about the effect? I think probably more of an effect on graphic novels.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, absolutely. No, absolutely.
And animation, right?
Well, I'm starting to, many years ago, back in the 90s, I was pitching animated shows in Hollywood. I gave myself a couple of years to do that. I was living in outside the Phoenix area in Arizona.
It's like I'll live to be 82 years. I could waste 4 of them.
Yes, exactly. Well, it wasn't a waste. It was fascinating because Ted and I have had many discussions about our Hollywood adventures
Oh yeah.
And they are, I mean, they're exactly what you think they are. They're just so bizarre. But my point is, for 2 years, and so I have a closet full of animation ideas that I would like to see come to fruition. Might be kind of fun to see what happens. And so I'm looking at these programs that you can use, Ted. Holy, yeah, I'm going to be able to see how they looked. And that's really actually what animation houses are looking for, what they're called animation houses back in the day. But like Netflix and all those other guys are looking at who's producing this for their webpage, for their Substack, for their blah, blah. And, you know, that's, you could do animated cartoons. You tried animating your cartoons years ago, and it was very labor intensive.
Oh my God, brutal. Yeah.
And what really,
ironically, it's actually harder when you have a more simplistic drawing style. It's also
really?
harder for AI to figure you out too. I learned that a little bit. It made sense. Like when I've done like parodies of other people's style, I found like it was a lot easier to do a parody of someone with a complicated drawing style than someone like with a very simple, like copying Peanuts is hard because there's only a few lines there and every line has to be perfect. Whereas if you're, doing copying like Tony Millionaire, where there's lots of feathery lines, you can get some of those lines wrong, but like in the aggregate, if they all your mistakes average out, it's okay. And I don't know. I think AI kind of works the same way. It's like if you're trying to use it like in animation, if you're trying to like use vector animation of say The Simpsons, that's harder, I think, than doing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
It's not as likely to look good. It's so funny. I mean, if you ever try copying a really primitive drawing style, like I bet copying XKCD is hard. I bet it doesn't look quite right.
Yeah,
I tried copying Linda Berry. It didn't look right.
Really?
Tony Millionaire thought my copying of him was great, and he hates me.
Now, what is Tony Millionaire?
Yeah, he's a alt cartoonist. But he has a very like you've seen him around. He's done like album covers for like Elvis Costello. I mean, he's like you've seen him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there we are. I mean, I wish I could say this is the tool that will save editorial cartooning. I mean, can we talk? We have just a few minutes left, I know, but for instance, when editorial cartooning, when they decided, and this was one of those, groupthink things that newspaper editors do because they're idiots and can't really think for themselves.
There's a lot of those.
Oh, they're all of them. Ted, I've said this a million times. I've never heard. I'm still fucking waiting for one editor, one publisher, just one, to come forward and say, you know what? We fucked up. We misread the tea leaves.
Hold your breath.
No, they all are. Well, who could have seen the internet coming?
Right. Only everybody. Right.
Everybody. And
well, that's like, I mean,
brother.
You got to love that. It's sort of like, I mean, it's related. The New Yorker published a piece yesterday about how the DNC Democrats now have regrets about the Kamala campaign, and specifically how they probably should have worked harder to rein in Israel's behavior in Gaza because it may have affected her campaign. And it's like, if only there were people who told you not to get in bed with Bibi Netanyahu. But okay, anyway.
No, it's just what's happening and has happened to the profession. Where editorial cartooning is today, this will not have an appreciable impact on it. But I still hold out hope. It won't be in time for my career, certainly, that someone is going to discover editorial cartooning, like go through and find it a best of book in a library or something like that. And they're going to go, wow, this is amazing. Why is no one doing this? They will do it.
I would love that to happen. I always think of you saying that. And I'm like, God, please, please.
And they will do it. And then it will be incredibly successful. We'll be dead or drooly,
Either way, same thing. Mentally
it'll be too late for us. But then every editor now online or however they're producing or posting content is going to steal that same idea. And it's going to come back. Now, then they can have a discussion about AI, whether or not how it works, should it work. They can pump in all, and we'll be back to having a bunch of rhinoceroses with the word debt on the side of it.
I can only hope so. It seems like a good place to end. Thanks everyone for tuning in. The DMZ America podcast will be back next week, a week from Friday. So that'll be, I guess, July 31st, if my calculation is correct. Looking forward to seeing you then. Don't forget, Deprogram Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time with Jamal Thomas, our take on politics. And also TMI with Manila Chan. That's at 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, all the podcasts. Anything you want to pimp, Scott?
Not at the moment. I'm good. Go ahead and check my workout at the Chicago Tribune.
Bettina is asking you to sing.
Okay, I am actually in California at the moment. So here we go. You ready? It's going to be.
All right, here we go.
Waka, waka, waka. Ba, 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 ba.
One,
go.
Two,
Bum, bum, bum. Dun. California, open your golden gate. You let a stranger wait outside your door. Ba 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 ba. California, open your golden gate. You let a stranger wait outside your door.
What
Open your door.